Hello, church. Today we're going to talk about our plans to reopen the church for in-person worship here in a couple weeks, hopefully the weekend of May 23rd and 24th. You know, most of us haven't been on the other side of these doors for a couple of months now. The campus is still closed, but even though the campus is closed, we are preparing to go back to in-person worship. And so today we're going to share with you some of the things that are happening inside the church to make that happen. But before we go inside, we want to make sure that everyone understands that we love you right where you are. You know, in this pandemic, there are many people, lots of opinions. Everyone has a different comfort level for the amount of time they're out in the public or coming to church or going to the grocery store or having everything delivered. And we want everyone to know that when we go back to in-person worship, if it's not time for you to come back, if you're not comfortable coming to church, we absolutely love you where you are, and we are going to continue the home-based worship materials, especially our worship services on YouTube. We're going to continue to put those things out for the foreseeable future. We just don't see that going away. And so we're going to minister to you where you're at, but if you do decide to come to the church for worship, we want you to understand that our shepherd is committed to safe, sustainable, spiritual, and sacramental care in community. And we're going to be pulling out all the stops for safety. Also want to make sure that what we're going to do is stands the test of time, as we don't know how many people we're going to have. There are lots of things. We have no idea what this virus is going to do. We're going to monitor the situation on a daily basis, and we're going to make sure we're communicating those things to you as regularly as we can so that you know what to expect if and when you decide it is time for you to return to worship. So again, we want to make sure that the worship environment and that our campus is both safe and what we're doing is sustainable. And so I want to go ahead and make a personal plea for anyone who is a part of our church body, high school age and above. You know, we're going to need some trained volunteers to help us navigate this time and help people who come to our church navigate this time. And so right now we're asking for people who'd be willing to serve as greeters, as ushers, and also as people who'd be willing to sanitize our worship spaces between services, because that's something that's really important to us. We're taking away all the soft furniture in the narthex, in the sanctuary. We're going to prop the doors open. We're going to sanitize things between worship services. And if you would like to help be a part of the volunteer army that's going to be necessary to open God's house for worship, we'd love to hear from you with simply an email to either Heather at the front desk or info@ourshepherd.org. We'll get you plugged in, get you trained. We'd love to have you serve the Lord's house in that way. Why don't you come with me inside the sanctuary? Welcome to our sanctuary that is full of safely social distance seating arrangements. And so one of the measures that the governor has encouraged us to do is make sure that people are sitting at least 6 feet apart from each other. And you can look around the sanctuary and see that we have different pods, seating pods. It can be anywhere from 2 to 8 seats per pod. And we're going to ask our members initially as we come back to worship to be RSVPing. And what that'll do is it'll allow us to make sure that our seating arrangement will allow as many families as possible to come to worship. In our traditional space right now, we have 125 seats for worshipers that are divided into 31 or 36 different places for family units to be seated, if we can divide them up depending on how we need them to be used. But also in the contemporary space, we're going to have enough seating for 24 seating units of 4 each, so 24 families could be seated there at the same time. 96 folks can worship over there. Now, again, all of these precautions are being made just to make sure that if someone does decide it is time for me to come back to worship, that you are as safe as possible. There are so many things that are unknown about this virus and how it spreads, but we are going to take every precaution so that worship is a situation and it's an environment where you feel safe to come and to commune with fellow believers and also with your Lord. You know, as Lutheran Christians, we are sacramental, and the Lord's Supper is very important for us. And so the decision has been made that when someone comes to an in-person worship service, that we are going to have communion. Communion, however, is going to be served in a no-contact way that we explain to you if and when you decide to come to worship. Your pastors, church staff, the leaders of our congregation, and your elders are working very hard to make sure that for those who decide it is time for them to come back to worship on the weekend of May 23rd and 24th, it is as safe as humanly possible. You know, this time of separation, now months that we haven't been in worship together, has really I think, increased our longing for worship for many people. We respect that, and we want to honor that. And we think about the words of the psalmist in Psalm 122, verse 1, where he says, I was glad when they said, let us come to the house of the Lord. That's what we're looking forward to. That's what we're praying for as God's people. We recognize this is such a difficult time for so many. Many people are lonely and really missing their church family. And so we're going to continue to monitor the situation. We'll watch conditions, and we're going to continue to prepare for our eventual return to worship, which we are looking forward to, being together in the Lord's house together, because that is an important part of our life together as Lutheran Christians, as we receive God's gifts in the Holy Sacrament and are blessed by the fellowship of one another in this place.